And we are started. Oloram, Jate Tor, Balasukoi Nervode. Welcome to Season 3, Episode 15, I think, of The Way of the Mandalore, Under the Helm podcast. I am your host, Kadale Kabor. We are joined by Zel Namore, Dirge Delamort, Candle Drashia, Julia Wolf, and whoever joins later will join later. So, continuing on this month's topic, which is setting aside for foundlings, Tenet 9. Zell, if you have it pulled up, would you like to give us a reading of the Tenet, please?
The Way of the Mandalore. A Mandalorian must, to the best of their individual ability, provide care and shelter to foundlings. A Mandalorian must set some aside for the foundlings. This means that a Keeper of the Way must actively donate time, money, and/or resources that will aid unwanted, abused, orphaned, or neglected children. If a Mandalorian is blessed to be able to foster or even adopt, this is to be commended, not condemned, commended,
I'm about to say
but it is
condemned.
not a
Damn.
requirement. Commended, but is not a requirement. A Mandalorian must not seek out praise or even recognition for the good they do for foundlings. Ibikruni, this is the way.
Ibikruni. So, all that being said, we've been talking about trying to set up like something to go towards charities. We've been trying to. I like that design, Candle, but I don't think that's going to work out too well.
Well, you were building, I was building.
I know. But we're talking about setting up charities, donations from the Armorers Guild, which, based off of last night's talks, just in random voice chat, is a good idea because it is tax deductible up to a certain percentage for the company and 100% for the individual. So we can donate items like Grant's wrist cuffs, Bavodu if he still does them, the VOD tags. I've got my own VOD tags that I can craft and donate to the church so that any new members coming in, we can set aside these little welcome boxes that has their first piece of armor, a crest with the sigil on it, and a necklace, for lack of a better term, that identifies them as Mandalorian.
Potentially a call too.
Potentially, yes, depending on area and local laws. Mm-hmm. That's not a bad idea.
Of course.
Because, you know, we still have to be legal. Kando, what are you doing with these corners?
Let me do my magic.
Ah, okay, I know what you're doing. You're building the outside wall. Gotcha. Never mind. Carry on. We are streaming Once Human, by the way, in the video, so you get to see a free preview of this game while we're base building today. And we have gone with a 2-base build, where we have merged our bases into one super base.
3-pane or single?
Single panes, just like we did last one. And we had both of these built yesterday, but I decided to overbuild on mine. So now we're downsizing my base so I can actually build internal stuff. Like internal walls and such, because those are needed. But back to the topic. Sorry for the tangent.
Distraction.
Yeah. I'm easily distracted. This is the way.
Oh, look, a chicken.
Ooh, squirrel! Hyper focus on building and it's fun. Oh. So yeah, we want to try to set up some kind of welcome box for foundlings, new members. Doesn't matter whether that's a child or a grown adult. We want to set aside for foundlings, new people to the faith. many times can I say new people to the faith
Yes.
without
Traditionally speaking, as far as like lore and whatnot, foundlings were originally children. A
right,
foundling, as far as we consider them, is anybody new to the faith is a foundling. Not just a child, but child, teenager, young adult, those of older age, so on and so forth. If you are new to the faith, you are a foundling. Yes, it is more directed towards children, but it is also for anyone new to the keepers of the way.
right.
For you have found your way to
That is
us.
correct. Kendo, I'm actually just going to go ahead and make this a full roof right here. It'll give me something to
In regards to the whole donation thing, I know there are some rules and regulations that are needing to be looked at in regards
right.
to all that stuff for those who are wishing to give donations for the keepers of the way, because it's not as simple as like, oh, I give this stuff and now it's automatically a tax deduction and all that. But
No, you still have to keep receipts, any kind of document stating materials.
and we also need to see like if there are any items that are not permissible to be tax exempt, if that makes sense.
Yeah, go ahead and redelete
In
that one.
regards to another thing to keep in mind is setting aside time for interacting with foundlings to be able to teach and just develop in general.
And the community.
Yes, and the community as well.
Not just the Mandoa community, but outside, the Arutese, the outsider community.
hmm Volunteering for like the Big Brother Big Sister programs
Right.
are good for young adults. Volunteering at the Y is another good place.
The Boy Scouts and Girl Scouts. Or
Mhm.
Scouting America, I think as they call themselves now. I think they've merged
Yeah, just the
the two
scouts.
groups.
hmm And doing things, interacting with those types of environments is something one should try to do in order to are perfectly good examples of things one can do to adhere to this tenet.
Right.
And once again, do not be like it should not be something that's bragged about.
But it is something that is required to do to the best of one's ability. Not everybody.
Mm-hmm.
Kendo, why are you destroying my walls?
Roof. Roof.
Ah, okay.
Well, yes, it is required for us to be doing these things per our tenets. It is not something to brag about. For doing something you should be doing is not necessarily. It is a
Right.
self um, prideful thing. It is something you should take pride in of yourself, and not something you have to boast about to others. You should feel pride that you're doing this for yourself and for the foundlings, not for merit.
I mean, I have a funny little anecdote about
What you got?
foundlings.
Hmm. Go ahead.
So when I had when I was involved with my family and stuff like that, um, I had the really unique opportunity to be a stepfather to a very great little girl. Um, but she ended up stealing my combat vest so much off the back of my door that I just ended up unloading it and giving it to her. So I guess that it was kind of funny, but she used to like grab it and like load it up with all these little sparkle bombs and stuff and run up and down the hall. She was like a combat fairy. It was a lot of fun. You would have like
That's cute. I
camo
like that.
see-through wings with like she glued sparkles to it. It was great. I
That's
also made sure
awesome.
she
Okay.
got an education in fighting as well. My two biggest prides. All that and showing her the original Transformers animated movie.
Nice.
Don't tell it. Don't tell an '80s kid, hey, I want to see the bad guys win. In
Because you will see them win.
the most dramatic of ways.
Why is that saying it's out of range to move?
One thing I'm personally interested in is eventually, like,
Too far
I believe
south.
I mentioned it in the last last podcast of like having a school similar to other religious faiths
Let me cook.
to be
Okay,
able
I thought
to.
that's what you were going to try, but I wasn't sure how it worked. I thought we had to go from the top down with that. Zell, I like that idea. And homeschooling is
Yeah, I know
kind
we
of
were
what
talking
you're.
about homeschooling.
Okay, now we do the. No, not those. Just the ones that you had at first. Just the full walkthrough. No, that. Okay, I guess you have to delete that to make that corner piece.
Well, yes, homeschooling would be honestly, in my personal opinion, one of the best options right now because one, the school system has gotten so honestly politically driven that it's
Right.
freaking ridiculous. And another
Oh,
thing about
my
it
lights are
is
there.
that
That's why.
the public education system is meant to be made as like factory workers practically. You're not
Right.
really teaching like actual life skills. Um, but if one was able to open up a school that's a private school um, that's centered around like the teachings of the way. For one, it would be no politics,
I actually
no
think I just
political
came up with
motive.
a good analogy for this, and it's the Amish.
You wouldn't be wrong with
It's
that,
not one of the
yeah.
best, but we're not gonna
Mm-hmm.
be non-technological like they are. We're not gonna
Mm-hmm.
shun anything that was made past a certain year. That makes sense. But the way
Yeah.
that they've got their communities set up,
Mm-hmm.
where they homeschool, they teach kids, they teach. I'm going to use the term foundling because that's what they are for us.
Mm-hmm.
Basic life skills. For us, that's also going to include modern life skills, not just plowing the field, raising barns.
Like we would be teaching things like homesteading, technology, programming,
Okay, why is
possibly
this?
even.
Kanda, why is this one not letting me?
I'm wondering why you guys can't hear me, and I'm like, I muted myself. I was gonna ask, what
Nice.
would you find more advantageous? Would you find a brick and mortar school or like a digital school more?
Both.
A brick and mortar or a what?
Digital
A
school.
brick and mortar
Or a
or
digital?
digital? Yeah.
Um, quite honestly, both.
Kanda, why is this not letting me? Let me
Both
put
would
it
be
there, but it won't let me
advantageous,
put
to
it
be honest.
here.
One moment.
You would have the brick and mortar, like, what you could do is have sort of like certain days can be digital for certain classes. How it would be broken up would be like certain days are certain lessons that aren't required to be like hands on
What?
can be
Where are
done
my metal
digital.
scraps? Did you move my?
Can either be done in digital or there is the option to come in to the actual building on days that you have to have a hands-on lesson. You would come to
I have
school.
one.
You would actually come to the school. So like things like shop classes and whatnot. I mean, how our education system is, where it's in schools for like 8 hours, not including extracurriculars, correct?
Right.
For the most part.
5 hours.
So
5 hours just straight 8 hours. Yeah.
yeah, depending on where you
Oh,
are, I believe it
excuse me.
is like, oh my god, in the morning to like almost 4 o'clock in the afternoon. But basically, each class is like 30 to 45 minutes long to teach a lesson. If you break it down to where
Oh,
like
that didn't work.
certain classes are on certain days, more so than just everything is taught in the every single day, you can spend more time on the lessons to make sure that they are understood, as well as getting more information out of it to be learned and more experience. If that does that make sense?
It does.
Because like there are schools that basically went to where it's like you have 8 classes, but you have 4 classes on this day. The next day you have the other 4,
Right.
and then on like Friday would be like sort of like a test day where you have all 8 classes, but they're
Excuse me.
specifically for like a test kind of situation.
Right.
If you broke it down like that, to where you have only so many classes, one, a child is able to focus more on said lessons and able to like get the attention, as well as another thing is to have smaller smaller classes to where a teacher can have easier hands on,
Right.
and then finding a person's way of how they learn and putting them in an environment that nourishes
Damn it,
that
Sal. Sorry.
is
I meant to give
another
you
thing as well. Like, so for someone like me who's a hands-on learner, don't just show me how it's done. Tell me how it's done step by step as I'm doing it is how I learn things.
Right. That's how a lot of people learn. Not just you. That me myself or me myself and I. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And I'm not saying like my situation is unique. Obviously, there are other people out there like that. I'm just saying like there's people like us who learn by hands on, and then there are people that have that like, oh, just give me a piece of paper and I'll figure it out,
Right.
or show me how it's done and I can learn it that way, kind of thing. Because quite honestly, yes, math, language, they are good to teach. History is always a must. I do agree with that. However, in my opinion, the way that the education system is going about some of the lessons is not as
They're getting too
effective as it
political,
can be.
but we're not going to get onto that too much.
Oh, I'm not even talking about the political aspect of it. I'm not even touching the political aspects of it, because
Hey, there we
in
go.
regards to history, you can teach history and make it fun too. But I remember being in school and students being like, history is so boring because it was taught in a boring way. Whenever I had a teacher that actually had interactiveness, I guess you could say, and made it fun, everybody was learning better.
Right.
Another thing would be finding a way to not have the state mandated tests. So honestly, they don't really. For one, this is a private school funded outside of the government. Government
Should have no
shouldn't have a
oversight.
shouldn't, aside from like safety concerns and whatnot. Which, I
Excuse me.
mean, there's ways to cover what we do as keepers of the way from when it comes to teaching self-defense and all that. Because I mean, obviously, the only people that would be signing up for our school would be other fellow keepers of the
Well, yeah.
way and children who wish to partake in our teachings. I mean, one thing that can be done for the school also is like lunchtime. Don't just have it to where they come and eat. Turn it into a home economics time period as well, and they
Have
can
them
learn to
cook.
actually cook the meals. They learn, teach them agriculture, how to pick the produce and all that. Teach them how to butcher for meat, fish, so on and so forth. Learn dietitianary stuff. Like in teaching them how to with home economics and for lunchtime and all that, they learn dietitianary stuff too in the process of how to actually eat a proper, well balanced diet while it also is healthy for them because they would be using fresh ingredients. Does anyone else have anything they wish to add on?
I would like to add a few things.
By all means.
Okay, getting food from the garden, that's one thing. Preserving food, that's going to be quite another. I kind of think that the school ought to also be a way and means to learn the old ways of preserving food, such as
Mm-hmm.
smoking, salting, freeze drying, just plain drying, and uh, making it so that people know how to do it properly, so that they don't run the risk of botulism and stuff.
Right.
And
Mm-hmm.
yeah, and because I've been reading some of the Mandalorian fan fiction and stuff, and a lot of these stories are all about how the Mandalorians are eating rations. And it's kind of like
Mm-hmm.
life is not rations, but it's
Mm-hmm.
nice to know that if you're in a situation where you don't have access to whatever, then yes, you can eat a ration that you know the source of the items in that ration, and you know that they're good to eat.
Right.
Your the stuff that's because if you if you look upon the program itself, the Mandalorian show, they don't eat a whole lot. They barely show them eating at all, and eating is so important, because
I
you feed kids at least 3 times a day.
mm-hmm. I think in regards to that, I think they only showed him eating like maybe twice
Mm-hmm. And how many
I
years
in
like
the
that.
later?
entire in the entire episode in the entire series. And quite honestly, I was okay with them not showing more of that because it got the point across of like they take the whole not removing the helmet
That seriously.
off in front of others that seriously that it's like yeah they showed it the first time when Din Djarin was on that one planet escaping with Grogu and it's like well how serious is this is like clear obviously this person isn't of the faith um and then the episode later on with
With
fuck what's
IG8,
her
with
name
the. Oh, I thought you were going to say when he actually backed to healed.
no not that one when they were out looking for that creature at the beginning of season 2 3
The
You're talking about Bo
not
Katan?
but yeah Bo-Katan when they were at that in that hunting party and they stopped for the night it shows like how serious this is that they all separated from even each other
Oh,
Oh,
to
okay.
remove their
when they
head.
went to go rescue Pax's boy from the
Yeah.
streetcar.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it showed that showed like how serious even amongst themselves it is to remove their helmets.
But again, that was a
Um,
case where they're eating rations. It's one thing for them to eat rations, yet they're offering
mm-hmm.
fresh food when you're welcoming the others to the covert. They had some kind of
Mm-hmm.
roast animal on a spit. That was nice
Oh
to
yeah,
see.
yeah. That was very. Uh, they did show that they didn't just eat rations, and I agree with that.
Hey,
Rations are supposed to be a temporary thing,
yeah.
not a
Yeah, they
full
agree.
everyday kind of item. And that's something that would be taught in a home economic type class, or even in a survival class of like, hey, this is how you can make a survival ration. It's not meant to sustain you for long term, but just to get you to where you're back in a safe environment to where you can get proper meals.
Yeah, a
Or if
supportive
you're just
environment.
out camping. Yeah, or if you're just out kind of like doing a camp ration kind of thing.
Yeah, there should be a distinction made.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, it's important.
I
It's
mean,
important that the children get this information because children are being denied a lot of information and being fed a lot of garbage.
You're
Literally.
not wrong.
yeah, I mean, if you go back to like ancient Japan with the shinobi, they actually had like food pellets that were packed with a lot of vitamins and nutrients in
Yep.
a small package that were like really good, high in calories to help them sustain out in the field for a while. But it's not something that they lived off of, and that's the difference when it comes to that kind of thing. Is yes, you can have a ration every so often, or if it's like a quick, you're not able to actually cook up something. Yes, this technically you could survive on this, but there's going to be consequences for long term that should be taken in consideration.
And I just wanted to add that we should educate children in that kind of ways and means because it's important.
Hmm.
Once they learn, they'll turn around and they'll teach others.
Exactly. Other
Actually
things
found
that
some
can
in
be
my book.
taught is, as I said, once again, self-defense class lessons
There
for
you go.
like PT or PE, teaching one how to for one would teach the core of tenet number 6 of self-improvement in the physical aspect in regards to making sure your body is physically fit and proper, which leads to longevity of one's life, as well as able to handle stress related uh, environments easier. Um, in regards to self defense, we also those lessons also teach self restraint and how to mentally strengthen oneself to where they're not going to break tenet number 3 of do not be the aggressor and knowing when it is okay to fight back
Right.
because environments that are like contact sports helps with allowing young children to uh, learn how to manage negative emotions like aggression, anger, and things of that nature in a healthy environment or in a healthy way. It's like yes, the, they would come out as being they would come out from when they become adults as being able to mm, be emotionally stronger and able to handle more situations in a calm manner to where we're not having people aren't always raring to go in fistfights and stuff. They're not resorting to aggression, but able to actually use conversation and be um, more willing to talk things out and be like, can we come to an agreement or are we just going to agree to disagree kind of thing instead of just being like, I don't like what you have to say, I'm going to punch you kind of thing. We're going to actually physically fight about this because I disagree with you.
So yeah, I agree. When it comes to the argument thing and stuff like that, like even on our own servers, it's not all the time we agree. In fact, like
Yesterday, for example.
Right? But at the same point, at no point through that conversation did I feel like I was like, you know what I mean, being disrespected. I hope the other parties weren't feeling disrespected, and I equally didn't feel like I had to rearrange somebody's face. You know what I mean?
Right. Nobody was attacking each other. It was a pretty civil conversation.
It was a debate.
Right.
Yeah. It was a debate
It was a
on
proper
religious
discussion.
interpretations. Right.
And we had a
It's all
proper
stated.
discussion about a topic and voiced our opinions.
This is a skill that isn't taught enough to our young folk. That's why I bring it up as an example. So if we can teach that skill to others in the full agreement with what you guys are saying, I think it would be a better community.
Ooh, more gold.
Like to our youngins, to our families.
And another thing is take into consideration things like woodworking and metallurgy, like shop classes and whatnot, in regards to how much more pride would one feel in their armor and whatnot, having handmade it themselves and instilled
the spirit into it, yes.
I mean,
Yeah.
you guys saw how happy I was and how nice that knife looked.
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
I actually want you to send me a link to that sharpener you used. I need to get one for myself, and I was either...
Sorry, guys.
Okay, so the scales did not come with the sharpener.
Yeah, you made those.
No, the scales I bought separately from the sharpener.
Oh, I thought you had made them.
No, he made the knife.
No, he made the handle.
No,
He made the handle.
Sorry, the whetstones I bought differently from the sharpener.
The jig. The jig.
The rig. But the rig, honestly, is not the best. It was just something that was cheap that also worked.
I wanted to touch base on a kind of overlooked element of most communities. I'm not going to say our community because you know what I mean. But just because you can't, and it's like you're an elderly person or you've been taken out somewhere or another, with physical disability or whatever. Just because you have those limitations doesn't mean you can't provide use in in the keepers.
Right. You're still useful no matter your age.
Yeah, but like as an elder or as somebody, you know what I mean, who's got a life experience, you have a beautiful opportunity to teach life experience and to teach, right? Our families. I only say this because I have my own physical challenges and stuff like that. And I know eventually I'll get to a point where I can no longer like pick up a ball or a trickster, but that doesn't mean I'm going to quit. You know what I mean? I'll just share my knowledge.
Here.
Right.
Are there any classes or lessons that y'all can think of that aren't normally thought about teaching that would be
one that is a dying profession is blacksmithing. There's not many people out there, and the ones that are normally deal with agriculture because farmers need their horseshoes for the
farriers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
that's nothing to animals. We have to teach about animals, the caring and feeding, and the utilization of animals because
animal husbandry.
I was raised in a city school, and we were never exposed to animals. Animals were your cat at home, and the rats are in the walls.
Agriculture classes.
I mean,
yeah, that would go along. that would go along with like lessons in regards to homesteading and things of that
Yes,
nature.
yes.
I
I mean,
think
it would be nice if all of us could be homesteaders, but I don't think so because a lot of us aren't in that situation. But those of us who are
Mhm.
not in that situation should not be denied the knowledge that
Right.
we could get from
well,
being exposed to how to farm, how to keep animals, blah blah blah.
Well, you say to homestead is not necessarily entirely being self-reliant
Or even off grid.
or even off-grid. Exactly, it's being able to produce something of yourself, of your own ability. Even an apartment can have a small garden
Or a
that
brewery.
or a brewery in Kadawa's case.
I mean, look how many
Right.
look how many apartments got turned into grow ops. Proof
Huh?
of point. Look how many apartments in Vancouver got turned into grow ops. Proof of point.
Exactly. Like, what is it, like hydroponics
Those
or
were high,
whatever?
yeah, high production facilities. Like I say facility in a loose term. It was an apartment retrofitted, but you're talking like 100 to 200 plants,
Hmm.
right? Producing a few pounds every few weeks.
Hmm.
I
I
mean,
mean,
if you were to
teaching how to
transfer
do
that
a community
tomato
community
or
garden.
other things, and that's a high yield. It's not a
Hmm.
small amount.
If we talk about the like what people mostly think of when it comes to homesteading, all you need is about half an acre to an acre of land, really,
Mm-hmm.
to
It's
be
an acre per.
almost
Yeah, I
almost
think the
completely
math.
self-sufficient.
I think
Yeah,
the
true.
I think
You
last
do
I
need that much
checked,
land, but you also need officials who are not going to poke their nose and saying what you can and cannot do.
oh, that's
Hmm.
true too. I mean, Firefly said it best when they said that a government's not good for much more than getting in a man's way and taking money out of his pocket.
The
Hmm.
worst thing you can ever hear. I'm from the government. We're here to help.
Um,
Exactly.
Something I think we should also make sure to teach our foundlings is, to be blunt, critical thinking and ethics.
Mm, definitely.
Situational
Don't
awareness.
don't just give the answer. Have them
Teach the
think
answer.
about what the answer is
Mm.
or how to find the answer outside of someone just telling them.
Push them
Well,
in
and
the
then
right.
also, yeah, plant the seeds of what's right and wrong. At the end of the day, they'll figure out the rest.
Hmm.
Like long
And
term,
don't and
end of the day is like
another
one's lifespan.
another thing to keep in mind is don't underestimate the ability of honestly kids self-regulating themselves.
I thought
Mm-hmm.
you were going to say don't underestimate the power of the dark side.
And then sometimes they do know what they need.
Hmm.
That's another thing. I grew up with that as an ADHD kid, being told that's not
I
what you
mean,
need, but that's what I needed. You know what I mean?
one of the best teachers in life is failing. If you
Mm-hmm.
protect a child from failing, they will honestly not grow up to be a successful adult because they will never
Participation
know how to
trophies are
handle
the
failure.
enemy.
Hmm?
Participation trophies are the enemy.
Wasn't it someone
I
said
was actually,
failure is the father of invention?
Well,
yes.
that
Yeah,
is.
Thomas
Well,
Edison figured out
propaganda.
like what
Yeah, Thomas
1,000
Edison.
ways to not make a light bulb.
Yep.
Yeah, but I'm trying to remember who said that. It could be like a bunch of people, and I think it was Plato, but I
No,
could be
Thomas
wrong.
Edison was one of the oldest ones that we know of that said that.
I was pretty sure
Or,
it would have been
oh,
Plato. I'm like not the best with this stuff. Um, like I said,
the
it's
only
not.
time failure wins is when you refuse to get back up.
Mm.
At that point, you have truly failed.
That's why I always like the thing of Dark Souls. Because it mirrors itself. in Dark Souls, you lose your humanity, but you can always regain it. The only time you truly lose and become hollow in Dark Souls is when you give up.
Mm-hmm.
Because in Dark Souls, the hollows you're fighting, they're the ones that have given up. But you, as the player, you only become hollow when you give up playing. More like a parallel of Dark Souls.
Exactly. You never truly fail until you've given up. That is when you have failed. Because it doesn't matter how many times you get knocked down, so long as you get up. You can get knocked down 100 times, so long as you get back up 101. You can keep moving forward. And that's something that, honestly, sadly, nowadays, and I'm not saying this in a political manner like some people might take it. It's not politically speaking. It's society has gone too far to one side for protection that the new generation doesn't know how to handle conflict.
Right. Not like some other generations.
What was that? I didn't catch it.
Political landscape.
Oh, well, there are. How can I say this? When it comes to teaching children, kids have their own politics, and that needs to be shaped. You know, how would I say this properly? A kid wants four things. They want parents who protect them, feed them, clothe them, and teach them how to do what the adults are doing, because every kid grows up knowing they're going to become an adult. So it takes an adult to teach a kid how to be an adult. So that's four things.
So politics really,
yes.
Politics in its basis is just being able to communicate as a group. Really, that's all politics originally is supposed to be. It's supposed to be.
And
a politician was the voice of the people as a representative. They're not supposed to be the ruler or seen as the upper class.
the leader leading them somewhere. That's not what politicians are supposed to be. Politicians are not leaders; they're representatives. They've forgotten that.
Yeah, they are supposed to work for the people, not for themselves.
Well,
but that's gonna go into a tirade. That's
not
well, when a leader
not,
looks
not
upon
a part of
themselves
the
as a leader,
podcast.
then they look upon everyone as their constituents as followers, and that's not the case. The followers do not, follow the leader. The constituents tell the leader where they want to go, what they want to have done, and then the representative uses their ways and means to try to get that done, because they know that they're going to go up against other people, other representatives who don't want to see that happen in whatever way, shape, or form. So it's our so-called leaders are cooperating with each other in order to lead all of us, quote, followers, to go where they want us to go. No, that's not how it's supposed to be. We, the constituents, are supposed to tell the representatives what we want done, and then they're supposed to do it. And it means a battle. And a lot of the politicians, they don't want a battle. They want cooperation. They want a soft job, easy money. They want security. They want to be voted into their position of whatever political office that they're holding every single time the election comes up. They want to be voted in over and over and over again, and that's not how it works.
So
it shouldn't be that way.
I'm gonna try to steer this away from actual politics.
That would be a good idea. How about we get into language?
You know where I'm coming from.
Yes, I do. I personally am for term limits. Don't get me wrong, because that weeds out, that prevents the situation that we have as far as America goes, being a bit of a side tangent, not being one side or the other. There's problems on all sides, but a politician is supposed to take the concerns of the people they represent to the other representatives and see, like, okay, here's what my people are wishing to talk about. Is there any way we can come to a consensus? Do we
Nope.
have any conflict anywhere? What can we do to make this happen? And if there is conflict with another group, it's like, okay, where are we conflicting with one another at? And be like, hey, can we come to a mutual agreement? Okay, we've got this in place as a mutual agreement. Let's take it back to our respective people. Be like, hey, this is what we came up with. Are y'all okay with this?
Nope.
Yes
They
or
go back
no,
into
and
it
it's
again.
like, yeah, and then they just go back and forth until a resolution comes together, not as party A and party B, but as just in general
Representatives.
both sides mutually benefiting without harming the other. It's like people are forgotten what politicians actually are supposed to be. They're supposed to work for the people. The government
Mhm.
is the people. It's not the politicians that are the government. It's the people that are the government. People
Right.
have forgotten about that.
I'm
Mhm.
going to officially steer us away from this now because
Yes,
we
I
are,
was
as
I
a
was gonna say
faith,
that,
we need to stay
that's
away
the
from
the
politics as best as possible.
mhm,
Okay.
that is what I said is, to my, as far as I can think of, the most apolitical way to describe
And you
politics
did.
without
You
being on side.
you were
So yes, we
speaking
will
fact.
steer back to the original.
Yes.
We will steer back to uh, foundlings,
I was actually
which
thinking we could go into language now. We've been talking for an hour now. So
oh
Okay.
shit,
we can
has
do
it
a
been?
quick
Oh fuck,
10, 15-minute language section.
my brain just went now. It's like,
That's
yay,
how mine
language.
usually goes.
What the fuck? What the fuck are my notes?
It's like they're around here somewhere.
Seriously, where the fuck did Bo go?
Hey,
Did I put
Dirge is
them?
back.
Actually,
Hey, how's it going?
seriously, uh, seriously, where actually did I put those things? Because I've been cleaning. I've been having to organize my stuff for me leaving in like 3 days. So I'm currently my room's currently a mess. I do apologize.
Are we still podcast or
Yeah,
we're still live or?
Yeah,
we're
Okay.
moving into
we're
language
on
now.
language.
Ooh. There's one thing I wanted to touch base before I had to run off there for a sec. Was I highly recommend that, like, how do I put it? Just teach our kids, with a great text like the Art of War or the Book of Five Rings or Meditations of the Mind.
Mhm.
Mhm.
You know,
Honestly, the free thinking books that everyone else wishes to ban. It's like, no, those are books that people should read. It should be mandated that people read these books instead of banning them. But control information, you control the people.
Well, exactly. And it's important to know that just because those are like technical manuals slash kind of like uh, philosophical pieces, um, doesn't mean they can't be applied in other parts of your life. In fact, a lot of predominant business folks who are highly successful have read and practiced their business ethics or their business towards the foundations of the book of war or the art of war. Sorry.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I heard about that. Oh, is there something
Um,
else I could add? I'd like to add one more thing.
by all means,
Teaching
because
the kids.
I completely lost on where my notes are.
Teaching kids. I think it's important that as much as we want to be self-sufficient and able to make do for ourselves, I think it's still important that we teach kids high math and technology. Now, speaking from
Mhm.
my own experience, I went to school in the cities, Minneapolis, And while I was in school, I was exposed to higher math, calculus and stuff. Now, I didn't grasp it, but I felt very honored to have been exposed to it at all because one, I'm a female, and two, I'm a minority. But I was exposed to that education, and I can't complain about my education because it tried to teach me even though I wasn't able to grasp it. I know that there are kids who are denied that kind of knowledge, and I think it hurts them in a way that is kind of hard to describe. So I think it's important that when we are teaching our kids that we don't forget, how to teach them how to like put together technology like a primitive radio or how to do um you know technology, the hard stuff that can be assembled with wires and stuff. We ought to be able to fix and repair the technology that we use every day.
We have
No,
the technology.
yeah, I mean, we ought to be able to fix it as well as enjoy it. And I don't want to like take apart my microwave, but it's good to know that if it breaks,
You know how to
I,
fix it
I
should
can,
anything happens.
You can take it
yeah, I
apart,
mean,
but can you put it back together?
yeah, can you put it back together so it'll work? But as an example, I ought to be able to know how the microwave works, even though I may not be able to reassemble it and put it back into production. It's kind of like
Right.
the microwave. I kind of know is the type of thing where once it's broken, chances are more than likely you're gonna have to get a new one. But it would still benefit me, make me feel good that I knew how the microwave worked to begin with.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that it's important that in our hurry to teach our children, let's not forget that we have to teach them technology too. The nitty gritty stuff.
Yeah, I completely agree with things of that nature. Like,
Okay, I just wanted to
yes,
say my two piece. Thank you.
yeah,
No, you're fine.
teaching maths are important. Knowing where the world is going technology wise and everything is important as well. Um, and things of that nature should be taught. And the sooner the better in most cases, actually.
So we want to thank everyone that has come to the live section of the recording and to the after section of the posting of the edited version. So I have been your host, Kadali Kabor.
I've been your other host, George. Keep up rocking the free galaxy.
If you would like to learn more about the Keepers of the Way, feel free to hit the link tree that's in my description, Kando's profile on TikTok, my Twitch. It'll lead you to our Facebook page. The Armorers Guild has their own Facebook page that's linked there. It'll take you to all of our official social media accounts. And yeah, thanks for coming. Ibik Runi.
Good for me.
Good for me.